Hey guys, so I'll be covering my main Speedcubes as of March 2017. I practice pretty much all events, minus a few, so I'll talk about that along with the puzzle that I'm using. So first is 2x2. I use the old plastic die in 2x2. These are pretty hard to get your hands on because they stopped manufacturing these. In any case, I wouldn't really recommend the die in anyway, the new plastic. For 2x2, I average around 2.1 seconds. A lot of people ask me what method I use. It's a combination of a few subsets. So I know full CLL and EG1. I also use anti-CLL with a few EG2 algs. All of these algorithms are when you have a face done, and it takes one algorithm to solve the rest. So for 3x3, which I'm sure most people are interested in, I use the Speedcube Shop Cosmic Valk 3 with magnets. I'm actually not sure what size or grade magnets are in here because I didn't insert them myself, but they are pretty strong. And the cosmic aspect of it means that it was set up by Cameron Brown, the owner of Speedcube Shop, so it's very good. He also restickered it for me. So most of my puzzles actually have the same color scheme, which I'll leave in the description. I'll list out the colors. Anyways, for 3x3, I've actually been doing a bit worse. My optimal speed was around 8.5, but right now I'm currently averaging like 8.7 or 8.6. I know full CFOP, and I use a handful of OLLCP and ZBLL, but I don't use any like VLS or anything. So for 4x4, I use a Chi Wuchui, which I recently magnetized. So the outer layers are N50 4x2s, and the inners are like 1x3 N35. Putting magnets in this actually made it so much better. The Wuchui has kind of a catching problem, especially if you don't break it in. So the magnets really helped eliminate those problems. For 4x4, I average around 38 seconds. I actually just made a video on the method I use, Yao. I'll link it right here if you're interested. So for 5x5, ignore the fact that this cube is partially unstickered. I have the stickers coming, but I was kind of eager to make this video. Anyway, this is another magnetic cube that I own, except the magnets are not prominent at all. Like, you can only feel it if you're turning very, very slowly, whereas the other two, you can feel them even when you're turning at a pretty high speed. Oh, and I forgot to mention what cube exactly this is. This is a Moyu H-Rong GTS. Not a lot of people like this cube actually, but I think it's better than the Wuchui. For 5x5, I average around 117, 118. I don't practice 5x5 nearly as much as the smaller cubes, but I definitely practice it more than the next two I'll get to. Anyway, for 5x5, I use reduction with free slice edge pairing. So for 6x6, I use the Chi Wuhua. It's actually not that great, it's pretty sluggish, but I get okay times on it, so I use it. Chi is kind of notorious for bad quality control, especially on higher order puzzles, so I'm lucky that none of my pieces have broken yet, but then again, I don't practice this event too much, like I said earlier. I really don't even know what I average, like sub 3, 250, 255 maybe. So then there's 7x7, which I practice even less, but this is a really good puzzle. It's my latest acquisition, and I'm in love with it. It's the Chi Wuji. Again, I'm really lucky that I haven't broken any of the pieces, but this thing turns really nice. Like, I really like the turning on this. It's far better than the 6x6. It's just a very nice puzzle, and 7x7 I average like 430 or something, I don't know. Okay, so now on to 3x3 spin-offs. So for OH, you can call me weird for this, but I use Zanchi. This is a 55mm Zanchi, and most people use like a much more modern cube, but I really like this for OH. It's pretty nice, but don't take my word for it because I'm really bad at OH. It's one of my worst events. I average around 17 seconds, and I use CFOP as well. And then for 3x3 blindfolded, I use the stickerless Valk 3. Stickerless doesn't hinder my recognition or anything, and it's nice to turn in the hand, so I use it for this. I also use it sometimes for OH. For blind, I use old Bachman corners and M2 edges. I actually just learned M2, and it's really fun. However, I'm still trying to get comfortable with it, so I only average like 2:30, 3 minutes. And now the unpopular event, 3x3 with feet. I actually quite like this event, and I practice it a fair amount. I use the Chi Big Sail. I think it's 68mm, and I use it because the sail is a pretty good cube, and I just find it easier to turn than a normal 3x3. For feet, I average around 55 to a minute, although I haven't practiced in a long time. Okay, so now on to side events, starting with the worst, Pyraminx. I use the Moyu Magnetic. It's actually a really good puzzle, like, despite the fact that I dislike Pyraminx as an event. The Moyu Magnetic is super nice. For Pyraminx, I think I average around 6 to 7 seconds. I'm not really sure. I don't practice. For Skewb, I use a very similar puzzle, also the Moyu Magnetic. After getting this puzzle, Skewb became like 10 times more enjoyable. This is just such a pleasure to turn. Like, I'm not a big Skewb person, but it's so nice. And then for Skewb, I average just under 5 seconds maybe, and I use primarily Sarah's intermediate, but I know a few advanced algs. For square one, I just use a Qi. There's not anything else that great, I think. The Weilong, I have that, it's not that good. So this is the main one that I recommend. For square one, I use the Lars-Vandenberg method. I think that's what it's called. And I use edge permutation parity as my parity method. Also, I forgot to say, this square one I put in the lock nut, so it's not supposed to strip. And then I also did the low mod, which is just gluing the pieces to prevent this from happening, like the pieces popping up, and just to make the puzzle overall more stable. For square one, I averaged around 13 seconds. For Megaminx, I used the X-Man Galaxy Sculpted. This is by far my favorite Megaminx on the market. I also replaced the white with black because white and this color, which is like a cream, does not contrast well at all. And so using black just makes it a whole lot easier to recognize. For Megaminx, I'm not really sure what the method is called. It's basically just solving it like a 3x3, and I average around 1 minute, 10 seconds. So lastly, we have clock, which I use a Lingao clock that I opened the case and I fully lubed. I think that the Rubik's is supposed to be better, the Rubik's clock, but I don't know anything about it, so this is what I use, and it's good enough, I guess. I don't really do much practice with this. I just use the basic clock method, I think, that everyone uses, and I average around 13 seconds. So those are my main Speedcubes as of March 2017. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for watching.